Okay, so the last video for this unit, this balancing unit, has to do with balancing word equations. So on the screen there, silver oxide reacts to form silver and oxygen. So what we need to do um, is write out a balanced equation for that word equation. First thing we need to do is write the symbols out. So, symbol for silver is Ag, and it's silver oxide. So, there is no and or anything between here. It's silver oxides, two words right next to each other. So, that is a compound. And if we remember, if we don't have the prefixes, what do we have to do? We have to do the switch trick. So, to do the switch trick, I'll bring up periodic table here. I will also want my polyatomic ion sheet. So I'll bring that up, and here's my polyatomic ion sheet. If you remember, at the bottom are some of the metals in the middle of the periodic table. And we see that Ag is a +1, and it's with oxygen. So let's look at oxygen. Oxygen is a -2. So, like I said, this is a +1, this is a -2. So when you do that switch, we are going to end up with Ag2O. Now we keep reading. It says reacts to form. So that's an arrow. Silver and oxygen. Notice there's an and between the two. So silver, symbol for silver is Ag, plus is the and, oxygen is O. Now, when we have a compound, we have to do the switch trick or use the prefixes if we have the prefixes, which we didn't here. If something's alone, you don't have to do the switch trick, you don't have to worry about prefixes. The only thing you have to ask yourself, is this element one of those 7 that we memorized? Remember, there are 7 elements that when they're alone are going to be what we call diatomic. And the trick was, you start at number 7, because there's 7 of them, and you make a 7. So NOFClBri, and then the 7th one is hydrogen. So again, if we have a compound, like silver oxide, 2 things, there's no and between there, we either have to do the switch trick or we use the prefixes, which we didn't have here. If something's alone, like silver and oxygen are 2 separate things, so silver is all alone here, we ask ourselves, is it one of the 7? Well, Ag is not one of the 7 diatomics, but oxygen is one of the 7 diatomics. So, since it's one of the diatomics, I'm going to put a 2 behind it. So now I can balance this equation. Now that I have it all written out, I've done the switch trick if I need to, I've used the prefixes if I had them, I checked to see if the ones that are alone are diatomics. Now I can balance it by putting the big numbers in front. So if I look at it here, 2 AGs, if I put a 2 here, the problem is I only have 1 O, and I notice I have 2 O's over here, so I'm actually going to kind of jump ahead and realize, okay, I need a 2 here for the oxygen. 2 times 2, that's 4 Ag, so I need a 4 here for the Ag. And we're done. So again, you'll need to be able to balance equations that are written out in words. To do that, you got to write them in symbols first. And when you write out things in symbols, you have to do a switch trick or use the prefixes or check your diatomics. So let's do another example. Nitrogen and oxygen react to form a dinitrogen monoxide. So the first thing I want to do is write that out. Nitrogen, it's N. And notice there's an and there, so and is going to be a plus sign. Oxygen, react to form. To form means the arrow. The turns into, and that's what the arrow means, dinitrogen monoxide. There's no and between there, so that's a compound. Dinitrogen is N2, monoxide is O1. Now, remember, we never write the ones, so just N2O. There is a 1 there because it's monoxide, monooxide, but we don't write the ones. So I use the prefixes to figure out the little numbers for my compound. Now the only thing I have to do is figure out for the things that are alone, like nitrogen is all alone here, oxygen is all alone here, are they one of the 7? Well, they both are. If you check your list of 7 diatomics, nitrogen's a diatomic, so it needs a 2. Oxygen's a diatomic, so it needs a 2. So now that I have all the little numbers written out, now I can balance it. Sort of the first chemical here, or first element, 2 N's, 2 N's, well those are good already. 2 O's, oh, we only have 1 O here, so I'm going to fix that. I'm going to put a 2 here, so I got 2 O's now, 2 O's, O's are good. But when I did that, I messed up the N's, so 2 times 2 is 4 N's, so I need 4 N's over here. I'm going to put a 2 there. So, nitrogen and oxygen react to form dinitrogen monoxide. Here is the balanced equation for that example. Let's do a couple more here. That one isn't fitting. 1 second. Okay. Next one. Magnesium metal and water react to form magnesium hydroxide and hydrogen. So I'm going to write that out. Magnesium metal is just Mg. I could have just said magnesium, but magnesium is a metal, so I said magnesium metal. And water, so plus, and we all know the formula for water is H2O. React to form, so it's going to be my arrow. To form is the arrow. Magnesium hydroxide. Now, there's no and between those two things, so it's a compound. Mg is magnesium. And hydroxide, if I look at my polyatomic ion sheet, hydroxide is OH, minus 1 is the charge. So Mg, if I look up on the periodic table, is a 2 plus. So that's a 2 plus. I looked up hydroxide, OH, that was a 1 minus. So when I do the switch trick, what I'll end up with is the 1 there and the 2 outside the parentheses here. So Mg, OH, 2. That is magnesium hydroxide. Remember, whenever you do a compound, you either have to use the prefixes that you have, or you have to do the switch trick if you don't have the prefixes. So, and is my next word, that's plus sign, hydrogen, H. So I know the formula for water is H2O. I don't have to worry about that. I did the switch trick on the Mg and OH, the magnesium hydroxide. The only other thing I have to ask myself is the ones that are alone, are they on the list of 7? Mg here is alone. Is it one of my 7? No. So I can just leave it the way it is. I don't have to put any little numbers. Hydrogen, though, is on my list of 7 diatomics, so I need to put a 2 there. Now I can start balancing it. Mg, 1 Mg, 1 Mg. Mgs are actually good. You could do the HOH trick for this example if you wanted to. You know, cross out H2O and write HOH. It actually doesn't really help you either way. Kind of might help you a little bit, but if I look here, I got 2 H's. Here I have 2 H's plus another 2 H's. That's 4 H's. So I gotta put a 2 here. And then, so the H's are good. And then if I look at here, I got 2 O's and 2 O's. so it's balanced. Always double check. 1 mg, 1 mg. 4 H's. Here's 2 plus another 2 H's. That's 4 H's. 2 O's, 2 O's. It's done. Let's do one more example here. Actually, how many more examples do I have? I should be able to get 2 more examples done. So, C2H6 reacts with oxygen. So, it's reacting with oxygen to form, that's the arrow, carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide. Remember, we don't use mono for the first one, so if it's blank, it just means there's mono carbon. But we don't use mono for the first one, so it's 1 carbon. Dioxide means 2 oxygens. And again, we know that water is H2O. So I got all my compounds done, but I always want to double check the ones that are alone. Are they on that list of 7? And yes, oxygen is a diatomic. So 2 carbons, 2 carbons, 6 H's. So I'm going to put a 3 here, 6 H's. We've actually done this one before in one of the previous videos. If you notice, we have 2 times 2, we have 4 oxygens here, plus another 3 here. So that gives us a total of 7. Well, this is where that 0.5 trick, we used that before. So 3.5, 3.5 times 2 is 7, so that balances everything, but I can't leave it like that. With the 0.5 trick, to get the final answer, what you do is you double everything. So the 1 out front here becomes a 2, the 3.5 becomes a 7, the 2 becomes a 4, and the 3 becomes a 6. Okay, let's see if I can get one more in here. Dinitrogen tetroxide. Dinitrogen, so N2, and notice there's no and between, so those are together, that's a compound. Tetroxide, oxide, tetra is 4, reacts with heat. Now, you haven't seen this before. The probably easiest way is reacts with heat to form. It means just the arrow, and you can just write heat right above it. Reacts to form nitrogen dioxide. Nitrogen dioxide. Again, don't use mono for the first one, so nitrogen dioxide. So we don't have anybody alone here, so we don't have to worry about any of the diatomics. Everybody's paired up with somebody in a compound. So if I look, 2 N's, oh, I only got 1 N there, so I'm going to put a 2 there. So 2 N's, 2 N's, 4 O's here. 2 times 2 is 4 O's there. That one was a pretty simple one. So again, just like with the other balancing stuff, if you want more practice on this stuff, if you do the practice quizzes and you're still not getting it, I do have paper copies of additional practice on this stuff. So stop in, get some help on an off day, or just grab one of those worksheets, stop by between passing time or something like that, grab a worksheet. Otherwise, if you have questions, stop by, ask, send an email, something. I will talk to you later.